करुणा शक्ति विग्रहाय नमोस्तुते। नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्तये दीनतारिणे द्वान्तद्वान्तहारिणे ईश्वराय साक्षात् वैराग्यमूर्तये विप्रलम्बद साम्बोधे पादाम्बुजाय ते नमः। नमो भक्ति प्रदाय शक्ति स्वरूपाय रूपानुगवराय गौराविर्भाव भूमे निर्देश सज्जन प्रिय वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथाय नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदाय गौरात्विषे नमः। पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूप स्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त श्रीराधाकान्त एतां सुरतो पंगोर्मम मंदमते गति सर्वस्वपदाम्बोजो श्रीराधा नमो दिव्य वृंदारण्य कल्पाद्य श्रीमत् रत्नागार सिंहासन राधा श्रीत गोविंद कृष्ण देवी सेव्यमानो स्मरामि। श्रीमान रासरसारंभी वंशीकटतटस्थितः दर्शकेन गोपीर्गोनाथाय श्री कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 दंडोत प्रणाम माताजी, दंडोत प्रणाम ऑल।
Which was
माताजी 27 2.2.27
2.2.26, right? Yeah, good point. So in the previous verse, we saw that how the yogis, they finally go to Satyaloka, and from Satyaloka is a place where Brahma stays. We last time saw two Brahmas. One is Brahma of the spiritual world. There is Satyaloka, that's the lotus flower. And one is the Brahma in the Meru Parvat, where the expansion of Brahma is there. Brahma.
Mataji, there is a lot of disturbance in the background. I don't know from where it is coming. Oh, I'm sorry.
Are you able to hear any disturbance now? Still disturbance is there, right? Okay. Aarti is going on in the temple, that is why. Sound. Yeah, to get over in 10 minutes. Now it's okay? So in this way, the Brahmaloka, which is there in the spiritual world, and Satyaloka. That Satyaloka is a place where expansion of Krishna in the Kalavatara Brahma is there. So from there, the yogi, he is thinking how much a person is suffering. So they have that concern for the people. Okay. So that we'll do today, 27. What does he do in that Satyaloka when he reaches Satyaloka? Nayatra shoko najara na mrityu natirna chodvega rute kutasche yachit tatodah krupaya nidam vidam duranta dukkha prabhavanudarshana nayatra shoko najara na mrityu natirna chodvega rute kutasche yachit tatodah krupaya vidam vidam duranta dukkha prabhavanudarshana. So what is the Na yatra shoko na jara na mrityu. There is no shoka there. What's the nature of Satyaloka? There is no grief, no shoka, no jara, no old age, no death. Na artaha, na artaha. Na artirna in that, na artaha. No pains. Na udvegaha. No anxieties. Rute, save and accept. Kutaschit, yat, chitta. And save that sometimes due to consciousness there is a feeling of compassion. So here it is given, what is the consciousness? Adaha. Adaha means compassion. Kripayat. Out of heartfelt sympathy. So Srila Prabhupada's moment is what? Have compassion towards yourself also, to others also. So that means every devotee is situated where? Satyaloka. Because Satyaloka is the place where the type of compassion is there for the suffering souls. Idam vidam. Of those who are ignorant of the process of devotional service. Duranta dukkha prabhavaha anudarshana. So what happens is, he has already experienced all these things. Successive experience has been given. Repeated birth and death is happening. Now, because he has reached in that place where there is no death, no old age, no grief, now this yogi has compassion for everyone. For whom those who are not aware, anidam vidam, that means he is ignorant of devotional service. He is unaware of the process of devotional service. Duranta dukkha prabhava. That is why he is not able to surpass this misery of 4 conditions: birth, old age, death, and disease. So the yogi who reaches this planet, Satyaloka planet, he has compassion for the misery of the conditioned soul. Okay. So now it is very much clear, Satyaloka is not one of the part of the material world. Understand it very nicely. Brahma is situated always in the spiritual world. Brahma has been given the task of taking care of passion, by which the creation can happen, for which Brahma expands. So the Meru Parvat Bhagavan, Brahma is also known as Brahma only. That pose changes. What pose changes? Not Krishna's pose doesn't change. Krishna's Kalavatara is only Brahma. Which post is changing? The Brahma and the Meru Parvat. That post changes. The qualified person, or you can say for 100 years, who has performed his Varnashrama duty properly, he gets the 100 lifetimes, not 100 years, 100 lifetimes. He gets the chance to become Brahma. The Brahma of this material world. Okay. Okay, Vrindavan Leela Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Dandavat. Na yatra shoko na jara na mrityu, nat na choda vega rite kutasya, yachitta tato dah kripaya nidam vidam, duranta dukkha prabhavanu darshanat. In that planet of Satyalok, there is neither bereavement, nor old age, nor death. There is no pain of any kind, and therefore there are no anxieties, save that sometimes due to consciousness, there is a feeling of compassion for those unaware of the process of devotional service, who are subjected to unsurpassable miseries in the material world. Foolish men of materialistic temperament do not take advantage of successive authorized knowledge, The Vedic knowledge is authorized and is acquired not by experiment, but by authentic statements of the Vedic literatures explained by bona fide authorities. Simply by becoming an academic scholar, one cannot understand the Vedic statements. One has to approach the real authority who has received the Vedic knowledge by disciplic succession, as clearly explained in the Bhagavad Gita 4.2. Lord Krishna affirmed that the system of knowledge, as explained in the Bhagavad Gita, was explained to the sun god, and the knowledge descended by disciplic succession from the sun god to his son Manu, and from Manu to King Ikshvaku, the forefather of Lord Ramachandra. And thus, the system of knowledge was explained down the line of great sages, one after another. But in due course of time, the authorized succession was broken, and therefore, just to re-establish the true spirit of the knowledge, the Lord again explained the same knowledge to Arjun, who was a bona fide candidate for understanding due to his being a pure devotee of the Lord. Bhagavad Gita, as it was understood by Arjun, is also explained. Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, 12th through 13th verse. But there are many foolish men who do not follow in the footsteps of Arjun in understanding the spirit of Bhagavad Gita. They create instead their own interpretations, which are as foolish as they themselves, and thereby only help to put a stumbling block on the path of real understanding. Just a second. Understanding, misdirecting the innocent followers who are less intelligent, or the Shudras. It is said that one should become a Brahman before one can understand the Vedic statements. And this stricture is as important as the stricture that no one shall become a lawyer who has not qualified himself as a graduate. Such a stricture is not an impediment in the path of progress for anyone and everyone, but it is necessary for an unqualified understanding of a particular science. Vedic knowledge is misinterpreted by those who are not qualified Brahmanas. A qualified Brahman is one who has undergone strict training under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. The Vedic wisdom guides us to understanding our relation with the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna and to acting accordingly in order to achieve the desired result of returning home back to Godhead. But materialistic men do not understand this. They want to make a plan to become happy in a place where there is no happiness. For false happiness, they try to reach other planets either by Vedic rituals or by spacecraft, but they should know for certain that any amount of materialistic adjustments for becoming happy in a place which is meant for distress cannot benefit the misguided man, because after all, the whole universe with all its paraphernalia will come to an end after a certain period. Then all plans of materialistic happiness will automatically come to an end. The intelligent person therefore makes a plan to return home back to Godhead. Such an intelligent person surpasses all the pangs of material existence, like birth, death, disease, and old age. He is actually happy because he has no anxieties of material existence, but as a compassionate sympathizer, he feels unhappiness for the suffering materialistic men. And thus he occasionally comes before the materialistic men to teach them the necessity of going back to Godhead. All the bona fide acharyas preach this truth of returning home back to Godhead and warn men not to make a false plan for happiness in a plane where happiness is only a myth. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Okay. Now what happens after reaching to Brahmaloka? Okay, he has compassion, everything wonderful. Then what happens? Next verse speaks about it. Tato vishesham paripatya nirbhaya stenatmanapo nalamurtiratvaran nalamurti atvaran ज्योतिर्मयो वायुमुपेत्य काले वायव्यात्मना खं बृहदात्मलिङ्गम् ततो विशेषं प्रतिपद्य निर्भया स्तेनात्मनापो नलमूर्तिरत्वरन् ज्योतिर्मयो वायुमुपेत्य काले वायवात्मना कं बृहदात्मलिङ्गम्. So he has reached Satyaloka. The devotee has reached Satyaloka. Then what he does, after obtaining Satyaloka, Pratipadyaha, Nirbhayaha, he has no doubt now. He is free from all the doubts. Tena Atmanaha, pure self. That means he's free from all his vices. Then, Tena Atmanaha, Apaha Anilaha Murti Atvaran. So, by his subtle body, now it is said, in an identity is similar to the gross body, and one after another, he gradually attains stages of existence, from earthly to watery, watery to fiery, fiery to glowy and airy, until he reaches the ethereal stage. That means he's giving up one. That means Atvaran, that means surpassing. What he has surpassed? From the water, fire forms, again, Jyoti Maha Vayum Upetyaha. He has reached the repellent atmosphere. Kale Vayu Atmanaha Ham. He has even crossed that also. Brahat Atmalingam. Now he is in the real form of the self. Now, let us go back again. Vishesham Pratipadyaha. He has reached that. Now he has to get rid of all these forms also. Now, which form? Now, already he doesn't have a gross form. With the subtle body, he has gone there with the subtle body. And even that subtle body has to be purified, because man, buddhi, ahankara is there in the subtle. So that ahankara should not identify itself as earth, a body made of earth, a body made of fire, a body made of air. Then even the body made of ether. We have 5 gross. The subtle has an attachment to this gross. So even that subtle has to be purified. Then only he can come to his real form of the self, Atmalingam. So just see, not just giving up gross body is important. Now the devotee has given up the gross body and his mind is completely absorbed in Krishna. That is why he has reached to this Satyaloka, where he has compassion. This compassion is the characteristics of a devotee. How to grow in devotional service? Just have this compassion, simple. If you see others suffering, automatically you will work harder. What is the answer for being always active? Just have compassion. Compassion. Prabhupada had this compassion. That is why today we are all here. Prabhupada did not think about his personal comfort, especially when he stayed in Delhi for 6 years. Chipudi, that place is Chipudi, that means Chipudi cover, like that small place. It's like Upar Ka Mala, you can say. And there even the person cannot sit also properly. There Prabhupada stayed. And Prabhupada was not having anything for eating also. Prabhupada used to go to printer's place. There only he started writing Back to Godhead magazine. And when he used to go there, and he used to just think, if the printer gives, okay, or it's Krishna's mercy. So if printer used to offer him some food, then he used to take. So much of suffering Prabhupada had. But Prabhupada always thought of the benefit of others. Why Prabhupada could have stayed at home also? He had a wonderful wife, everything was there. Okay. In other things, but at least wife was serving the husband nicely. Maybe in spirituality, not that much, but still, she was a very chaste wife. So Prabhupada gave up all these things just for the sake of others. So this compassion is the qualification for a person to grow in devotional service and give devotional service to others also. Tato Vishesham Paripatya Nirbhaya. Now he doesn't have any doubt. What is a doubt? A person always has a doubt. What will happen? Whether I'm going to come back here? Am I going to suffer? Am I going to get another birth? Now there is no doubt at all. He knows that he has come to a place where there is no birth and death cycle. Now, then with that confidence, what he does is, He is now giving up even the desire for having or identification with any small thing. Maybe it is a earth or a fire or an ether, whatever. He doesn't have even a smallest desire with all these things. He doesn't have desire. That is why he went to Satyaloka. And now giving up even that, anything you can see, even a small tinge of desire, even that also. So he is giving up everything from the subtle body. So the subtle body is also vanquished. Completely it is vanquished. Now it is Atma Lingam, that means it is now in the purest form. Okay. So here Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, I'll read out the commentary. If the yogi desire, then we'll read commentary of Srila Prabhupada. First, let me complete the one of you read. If the yogi desires to stay until the end of Brahma's life, he attains liberation at that time with Brahma. If he desires liberation before that, he pierces the 7 coverings of the universe and enters Brahman. Now we are talking about 2 Brahmas, right? Suppose he is waiting till everything is vanquished. So very clearly it has been said, suppose he is waiting for the end of Brahma's life. Which Brahma? The second Brahma. Then he has to wait till the liberation, till the time of Brahma. Then he will go along with Brahma. Now suppose he wants liberation before that, then he will pierce all the 7 coverings. Earth, water, fire, air, everything covering. That has been described. First he will pierce Earth. 5 billion yojanas thick covering the universe, measuring the 5 billion yojanas in the world, in the width. How does he do this? He takes a form of Earth, Atmana. Attaining the other layers should be understood in the same way. He is devoid of any fear of suffering to the body from burning or other dangers. Then he enters the layers of water, which is 10 times thicker than the layer, then earth layer, with a water body. Then with the form of fire, Analah Murti, he attains the layer of fire 10 times thicker than the water layer. Atmavan becomes. He attains these various forms to enjoy the sense objects of each layer. In earth, with an earth body, he can enjoy the sense objects of smell. And in the water layer, with the water body, he can enjoy the sense objects of taste. After some time, with that fiery body, attains a layer of air 10 times thicker than the fire layer. With an air body, he then attains the layer of ether 10 times thicker than the air layer. It is a form of great soul, Brahad Atmalingam, since it is worshipped as a form of Paramatma. Or it is called the great soul because ether's essence is sound, which is the Vedas. It proves the Vedas by being the sound of Vedas. Okay. So here very clearly it has been said, if the yogi desires to stay until the end of Brahma's life, he attains liberation at that time with Brahma. If he desires liberation before that, he pierces all these coverings. With these coverings, he had enjoyed. Now he is now trying to pierce each and every covering and attain Atmalingam. Here refers to attain one's identity with Lord. So Atmalingam here, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says Atmalingam refers to Paramatma also. So he attains Paramatma. So Atmalingam also attains, meaning is Paramatma. He attains Paramatma. Sometimes you say, I talk with Paramatma. Even for that also it takes. You have to pierce all. You have to pierce everything. So let us see what Prabhupada comments on this. Aruna Mataji read.
Hare Krishna. Text 28. Tato vishesham pratipatya nirbhayas tenatma napo nalamurti ratvaran jyotirmayo va yumupetya kale Vaibhavatmanakam Bahudatmalingam. Hare Krishna. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. Anyone who can reach Brahmaloka or Satyaloka by dint of spiritual perfection and practice is qualified to attain three different types of perfection. One who has attained a specific planet by dint of pious activities attains places in terms of his comparative pious activities. One who has attained the place by dint of Virat or Hiranyagarbha worship is liberated along with the liberation of Brahma. But one who attains the place by dint
This
of
Hiranyagarbha worship here refers to Brahma. This Brahma is which Brahma? Hiranyagarbha Brahma. Understand? Name of Brahma in the Meru Parvat is Hiranyagarbha Brahma. That is why Hiranyagarbha worship is liberated along with the liberation of Brahma. See, 1111 point you see. Yeah. Now he is not thinking, he wants now quick liberation, more faster. Or if he has to wait till the end of Brahma, then Hiranyagarbha Brahma, he has to wait. Okay, read further.
But one who attains the place by dint of devotional service is specifically mentioned here in relation to how he can penetrate into the different coverings of the universe and thus ultimately disclose his spiritual identity in the absolute atmosphere of supreme existence. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, all the universes are clustered together up and down, and each and every one of them is separately sevenfold covered. The watery portion is beyond the sevenfold coverings, and each covering is 10 times more expansive than the previous covering. The personality of Godhead, who creates all such universes by his breathing period, lies above the cluster of the universes. The water of the causal ocean is differently situated than the covering. The water ocean is differently situated than the covering water of the universe. The water of the causal ocean is differently situated than the covering water of the universe.
Vishnu, Karana Dakshai Vishnu is in the Karana ocean. Karana ocean, the causal ocean, is completely different from the water of these universes. We know 3/4 is water, 1/4 is only land. Now this water is completely different from the water of the water where Karadakshai Vishnu stays. Okay.
The water that serves as covering for the universe is material, whereas the water of the causal ocean is spiritual. As such, the watery covering mentioned herein is considered to be the false, egoistic covering of all living entities, and the gradual process of liberation from the material coverings, one after another, as mentioned herein, is a gradual process of being liberated from false, egoistic conceptions of the material gross body, and then being absorbed in the identification of the subtle body till the attainment of the pure spiritual body in the absolute realm of the kingdom of God. Srila Sridhara Swami confirms that a part of the material nature after
1 minute, let us
being...
see this. 1 minute. So what has been given? As such, the watery covering mentioned here is considered to be the false egoistic covering. So what is covering the material world is our false identification that has been covered, that has been said. Gradual process of liberation from the material covering, one after the other. Gradual process of being liberated from false egoistic conception. So a yogi or a devotee, when surpasses all these coverings, then reaches the place where Lord is there. That is why Atmalingam has been specified. Till he attains the pure spiritual body. Now this body is covered with ego, false ego. The whole material world is covered with this false ego that has been given. Okay, read further.
Srila Sridhara Swami confirms that a part of the material nature, after being initiated by the Lord, is known as the Mahat Tattva. A fractional portion of the Mahat Tattva is called the false ego. A portion of the ego is the vibration of sound, and a portion of sound is atmospheric air. A portion, a portion of the airy atmosphere is turned into forms, and the forms constitute the power of electricity or heat. Heat produces the smell of the aroma of the earth, and the gross earth is produced by such aroma. And all these combined together constitute the cosmic phenomenon. The extent of the cosmic phenomenon is calculated to be diametrically both ways 4 billion miles. Then the covering of the universe begins. The first stratum of the covering is calculated to extend 80 million miles, and the subsequent covering of the universe are respectively of fire, effulgence, air, and ether, one after another, each extending 10 times further than the previous. The fearless devotee of the Lord penetrates each one of them and ultimately reaches the absolute atmosphere where everything is of one and the same spiritual identity. Then the devotee enters one of the Vaikuntha planets where he assumes exactly the same form as the Lord and engages in the loving transcendental service of the Lord. That is the highest perfection of the devotional life. Beyond this, there is nothing to be desired or achieved by the perfect yogi.
So every
Hare
layer
Krishna.
has been described very nicely. One is 4 billion, 80 billion, such a vast thickness. That means how much ego is there, that much ego. This all is a false identification, that much thicker. Because what has been spoken here, a fractional portion of the Mat-tattva is false ego. A portion of the ego is a vibration of sound. A portion of the sound is atmospheric air. The portion of the air is turned into forms. Then the form is into heat. Then the heat is the aroma. And in this way, the earth. That means everything is a transformation of ego. Simple.
Ego.
Everything is transformation of ego. So ego means what? A false identification. So this material world is nothing but it is only a fractional portion of the Mahatmata, which is actually false ego, a false identification. Simple, how to understand this? Father gives a child a toy, and the child says, "Oh, I have a Mercedes Benz." But what it is actually it is actually a false ego, a false identification with the original thing. So whole material world is nothing but a false identification because of the tendency of ownership and controlling tendency. The moment you have a controlling tendency, gone. So this controlling tendency and ownership, these both things are not acceptable in the spiritual world. And that is the reason a Jivatma is put in the material world. And this material world is the fraction of the Mahat Tattva. Mahat Tattva again belongs to Krishna only. 24 elements belongs to Krishna. What emanates from the material world is this false identification. Like you have so many toys factory. Everything doesn't emanate immediately. What comes to you? Something. A Jivatma is given. Now, when the Jivatma and Jiva Shakti, Kala Shakti is put in the Mahattatva, then accordingly there are various Brahmandas which emanate, and that also depends how much is required. Not that whole Mahattatva is transformed into Brahmandas. No. How much is required, that much only fraction. Is only a fraction has been spoken. That means the Brahmandas are only a fraction of the Mahattatva. So it is only a transformation of the false ego. Okay. So just see the false ego works on how many capacities. We talk about ego at a basic level. But the whole creation itself is the transformation of Mahatvat, the fraction of Mahatvat, which is also known as falsity. And how many thick layers have been formed. So that all has been spoken, that how this becomes a sound, vibration of sound, and sound to atmospheric air, then air to the heat, and the heat to the earth, and earth to the smell. So you have the earth, water, fire, air, ether. You go from behind now. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. It is now the ether. Then it becomes earth, water, fire, air. It becomes air. Then it becomes fire. Then it becomes earth. Then it becomes fragrance. So in this way, whole transformation is happening. Okay. Pranena gandham rasanena vairasam rupam tu drishtya shvasanam tvachaiva shrotrena chopetya nabho gulatyam pranena chakotimupai yogi pranena gandham rasanena vairasam Rupam tu drishtya shvasanam tvachaiva shrotrena chopetya nabho gulatvam pranena chakotimupaiti yogi. No. Granena gandham rasanena vairasam rupam cha drishtya. Now one, crossing everything. The devotee has surpassed the subtle objects of different senses. Subtle objects of different senses. Subtle objects. We are not talking about the gross objects. Subtle objects. And what he is crossing? He is crossing the aroma, the smell. He is crossing the taste. Earth, water. Come now from up. Earth is fragrance, smelling. Isn't it? Smell. He has crossed the smell. He has crossed the taste. He has crossed this subtle vision. He is crossing by seeing the form, okay? He is crossing the touch. He is crossing the vibration of ear, there is sound. And the sense organs by material activities. He is crossing everything. He is now surpassing. There is a place, Tirukoshtiur, near Madurai, while you go to Srirangam. There one of our devotees left the body, old man. So it is a place where Shripad Ramanujacharya chanted Om Namo Narayana from the top and gave this mantra to everyone. So we all had gone up. And from there we were saying Om Namo Narayana. And then we came to know this person. He was seeing up and he left the body, old man. And in the Tirukoshtiur Mahatmya, very clearly it has been given, whoever leaves the body in Tirukoshtiur, he crosses even the Virja, crosses the subtle body, the subtle objects. That time he read this. Means we came to know, yes, that is a place where even the subtlest of the subtle body, subtle objects, because the subtle body have the subtle objects, the attachment to the subtle objects. Gross body, gross objects, subtle body, subtle objects. So a person who leaves a body in Tirukoshtiur and gets his Antim Sanskar done in Tirukoshtiur, he crosses the Virja and goes back home, back to God. When we say goes back home, back to God, that refers to Satyaloka. And slowly, as per the consciousness, going to Vaikuntha, going to Goloka, it's all as per the consciousness. But at least he crosses the Virja and reaches the second part, the spiritual sky. Okay. Venkatesh Avatar Prabhu, please read.
Hare Krishna. Granena gandham rasanena vairasam रूपं तु दृष्ट्या स्वशनं त्वचैव श्रोत्रेण चोपेत्य नभो गुणत्वं प्राणेन चाकूति मुपैति योगी. Translation: The devotee thus surpasses the subtle subjects of the different senses like aroma by smelling, the palate by tasting, vision by seeing the forms, touch by contacting, the vibrations of the ear by eternal identification, and these sense organs by material activities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Beyond the sky, there are subtle covering, resembling the elementary covering of the universes. The gross covering are a development of the partial ingredients of the subtle causes. So, the yogi or the devotee, along with the liquidation of the gross element, relinquishes the subtle cause like aroma by smelling. The pure spiritual spark, the living entity, thus become completely clean of all the material contamination to become eligible for entrance into the kingdom of God. Hare Krishna.
Sabhutam sabhuta sukshmendriya sannikarnam karsham manomayam devamayam vikaryam samsadagatya. Sabhuta sukshmendriya sannikarsham manomayam devamayam vikaryam samsadyagatya sahatena yati vikyanatatvam gunasannirodham. Sabhuta sukshmendriya sannikarsham manomayam devamayam vikaryam samsadyagatya sahatena yati vikyanatatvam gunasannirodham. Now, saha means the devotee. Bhuta sukshmendriya, indriya. Bhuta means gross, sukshma means subtle. Subtle. The point of neutralization, that means he has surpassed. Manamayam, he has surpassed the mental level. Devamayam, he has surpassed even the mode of goodness. Even the mode of goodness is a cause of ego, false ego. Vikaryam, samsadhyah. So he has surpassed this ego level. All this ego at the level of what? Mental plane. So he has crossed the ego, samsad, gatvaha. In this phase, progressing, saha, tena yati, vijnana. So slowly, he is crossing all these things and reaches the perfect knowledge, vijnana, reaches the perfect knowledge. Tattvam guna sannirodham. So he has reached the tattva, vijnana tattvam, guna sannirodham. So all the material modes are suspended. And how? Sampurna rupena nirodham. Nirodham means to come out, to cut. Nirodham means to cut. How he has cut? By neutralizing all these things. Neutralizing at the level of gross, at the level of subtle. And surpassing all this. Devamayam, Vikaryam, all these things he is surpassing. is progressing. By what? By Vijnana Tattvam. Vijnana Tattvam refers to by perfect knowledge. Vijnana Tattvam refers to the perfect knowledge. So in this way, a person, he has cut off, he has surpassed the material modes. Guna Sannirodham. I mean, he has to surpass even the goodness also. The so-called goodness is also very dangerous. That is why Deva Mayam has been written. We say, oh, Deva Purusha. He says, I don't want to be called as Deva Purush. I don't want to be good also in the society. Let me be transcendental, let me be divine in the society. And divinity depends on how eager you are in giving Krishna consciousness to everyone. How eager you are in distributing prasadam to everyone. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hani rasya pachayate. It has to be. Okay. So Ravindra Sachiputra Prabhu read.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Sabhuta Sukshmendriya Sannikarsham Manomayam Devamayam Vikarayam Samsadya Katya Sahatena Yati Vijnana Tattvam Guna Sannirotam. Hare Krishna. Translation. The devotee, thus surpassing the gross and subtle forms of covering, enters the plane of egoism. And in that status, he merges the material modes of nature, that is ignorance and passion, in this point of materialization, and thus reaches egoism in goodness. After this, all egoism is merged into the Mahat Tattva, and he comes to the point of pure self-realization. Purport by Srila Prabhupada.
So that is how he comes to his original form. His original form, pure Jiva Tattva. He merges everything, all these things he puts it in the Mahat Tattva. Now he comes back, that is self-realization. Yes, I am servant of Krishna. Now just read 2 paragraphs.
Yeah.
And we
Yes,
stop the
Mataji.
class here.
Yes, Mataji.
It's a big
Pure-
purpose.
Pure self-realization, as we have several times discussed, is the pure consciousness of admitting oneself to be the eternal servitor of the Lord. Thus, one is reinstated in his original position of transcendental loving service to the Lord, as will be clearly explained in the following verse. This stage of rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord without any hopes of emolument from the Lord or in any other way can be attained when the material senses are purified and the original pure state of senses is revived. It is suggested herein that the process of purifying the senses is by the yogic way. Namely, the gross senses are merged in the mode of ignorance, and the subtle senses are merged in the mode of passion. Gross senses are merged in the mode of ignorance, and the subtle senses are merged in the mode of passion. The mind belongs to the mode of goodness, and therefore it is called the Devamaya or godly. Perfect purification of the mind is made possible when one is fixed in the conviction of being the eternal servitor of the Lord. Therefore, simple attainment of goodness is also a material mode. One has to surpass this stage of material goodness and reach the point of purified goodness or Vasudev Sattva. This Vasudev Sattva helps one to enter into the kingdom of God. Last paragraph. Second paragraph. We may also remember in this connection that the process of gradual emancipation by the devotees in the manner mentioned above, although authoritative, is not viable in the present age because of people's primarily being unaware of yoga practice. The so-called yoga practice by the professional protagonist may be psychologically beneficial, but such small success cannot help one in the attainment of spiritual emancipation as mentioned herein. 5,000 years ago, when the social status of human society was in perfect Vedic order, the yoga process mentioned herein was a common affair for everyone, because everyone, and especially the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, were trained in the transcendental art under the care of the spiritual master, far away from home, in the status of brahmacharya. Modern man, however, is incompetent to understand it perfectly. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
So here very clearly it has been said that this all can be possible only when one is advancing in transcendental art. Prabhupada uses this word art. Transcendental art. Yes, it is a kala. How expert you are in using the knowledge in Krishna's service, and that is Vijnana. How expert you are. Expertise is kala. Somebody is very expert in decorating Lord. Yes, that is kala. Somebody is good in that. Somebody is good in singing. Somebody is good in speaking. Every art has to be utilized in Krishna's service. So this is known as transcendental art. Somebody is very good in cooking. Somebody is good in some things. So whatever we have, that to utilize in Krishna's service, and that requires expert guidance. So if a person has the shelter of the spiritual master, it's very easy to be always situated in that transcendental position.
Mataji
So a devotee need not wait for liberation. Iha yasya harirdaasya karmana manasa gira nikhilashapi avasthasu jivan muktasu uchyate. In this lifetime itself he is liberated. A yogi has to do all these things. But if a devotee has the compassion, within this lifetime itself he is placed in that transcendental world, from where he has only compassion to everyone. Okay, yes, Prabhuji.
Mataji, you said that everyone is having one ability, but Narayani Mataji is best in everything. Hare Krishna.
Agi. I am good in eating.
Sachiputra Prabhu, I second your opinion.
Thank you, Mataji.
Okay, any questions? I ask any questions.
Mataji, may I ask one question?
Yeah.
This text 28, Tato Vishesham Pratipadya Nirbhaya. Now, Nirbhaya here without any doubt, but Nirbhaya also has a meaning of no bhaya, right? No?
Samshaya leads to fear. If there is samshaya, there is fear. No samshaya, no fear. Avashya Rakshibe Krishna. If that faith is there, he is fearless.
Okay, Mataji, clear.
Yeah.
Mataji,
Anything
it
else?
appears very, very mechanical, wherein there is no reference to like what all we have read in Nectar of Devotion, Mataji.
Yeah.
And here it is so mechanical, like do this and
This is
then.
mechanical for the yogis. No, it's not mechanical. This is the devotees, how they go step by step, step by step. How they surpass. Everything has to be known also, no? How a person teaches the lotus feet of Krishna. How much level of compassion, how the subtle body is vanquished. How the desires are completely gone. This is it's technical. If you see,
Very
or
technical.
mechanical, technical, whatever it is, the most easiest thing is just be under the shelter of spiritual master. He knows the tattva.
Mataji, how do they know the route? Okay, this is the route one has to take.
Yeah, they know the route, no? They know the route how they have come also. So then they know the route how to take back. Why they have come? Why the spiritual master has come? To reclaim the conditioned souls, like you.
No, I mean to say in a very gross sense, like my sense of geography is very horrible. Navigation is
This
horrible.
is beyond time and place. This calculation is only up to the material world. Beyond that, everything is beyond time and space.
Mhm.
Till 80 billions and all those things, calculation is given. So Vedas are given by whom?
Yeah.
Paurishya. By
Yes.
Lord, he knows. For him, what is 80 billion? For him, it is a small thing. So he has given this knowledge. Vedavyasa has condensed the whole Vedas into sutras and given the natural commentary. So Vedavyasa, which Vedavyasa? Vyasa of this millennium, who is literally incarnation of Krishna himself.
Yes.
So he knows it.
Why is the name of the chapter this Mataji?
Meditating
The
on
Lord
the
in the
Purusha in the
heart.
heart. Yes. How to meditate. even to go to him, one has to cross all this.
Yes.
One
Okay,
has to
okay.
cross the identification with the gross, one has to cross the identification at the subtle level also. At the subtle level also, we have so many identification. That is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says there are 6 anarthas. Putaniti, that comes now. 6 when we do margina. First is gross level margin, subtle level margin, puja, pratishtha, putanati, all these things. They are all subtle level anarthas, which has been spoken. Subtle level anarthas. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
stop here.
Yes. It's very complex for a person like me.
Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you so
Hare
much.
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Vanchakaparatarshakapas,
Manchakaparatarshakapas,
Vaishnavibhyo namo.
Vaishnavibhyo, Srila Prabhupada.
Radhe ki jai.